Hello and welcome to Deliberately Creative. I'm Stephanie and I want to welcome you to a fast, fun, and easy Ladybug on a rock with a water drop and a leaf. So we're going to get started and I'll tell you all about the colors and everything that we need right now. All right, so we're going to be doing this rock. I'm pointing to an empty spot on my palette because I'm going to put a picture of the rock right there. So we're doing this rock right here. It was done on one of these slate rocks that I had dipped into fluid acrylic paint that was mixed with a pouring medium in my sunflower lesson, which is listed right up here. I used some of that extra runoff from the painting to do some fun rock backgrounds. So I'm going to use this one. I have more that I'll be able to use at another time. We're going to be using Decoart Americana paints, and they are all acrylics. They are all nicely pigmented, and they're all soft body, so they go on very smooth and they self-level. They go very flat. They do not maintain any texture, which is a good thing for these rocks because I really don't want the texture. I want to fake it out. So we're using primary red, cadmium yellow, jack-o'-lantern orange, sour apple, lamp ebony black, Hauser green, and snow titanium white. I have all of my colors out on a piece of plastic coated paper, which this happens to be freezer paper. You could use wax paper. You could use a paper plate. You don't need anything fancy when you're doing this type of painting. All right, so the brushes we're going to be using. I have a 4/0 spotter, which is a tiny round brush. This one's by Arteza. Then I have a silver Sterling Studio #0 bright and a silver ruby satin monogram liner #1. So that gives me my long liner, my bright, and a small detail round. I'm going to try and do this ladybug. Now, I did this ladybug in watercolor and it worked out just fine. I'm hoping that I'll be able to replicate it. But that was a ladybug from my imagination. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and get the base of that leaf put in. So I'm going to get the base of that leaf put in. There is a highlight area that is much more yellow. And so I'm kind of going to sketch it on with my yellow paint. So we've got the bottom part of that leaf, and then we've got the top part of the leaf, and the whole leaf is going to go off. I'm going to go ahead and just get that yellow put around. I'm using my biggest brush, which is that #0 bright, is the biggest brush that I have here. I am painting on top of a much more slick surface than the rock itself because it has the paint that's got pouring medium in it. But I do want to have some paint down, and this paint is much more matte in finish. So once I get it on here and it dries, it's going to give me a good base to work on the rest of the painting. It will take a few coats of paint. I am using craft paint, which is good. I love using the Decoart paints because they do have a nice pigment load to them. And you see how that yellow is going kind of green already? That's because the background was blue, and yellow is a transparent color. All right, so I'm going to dry this rock really quick. And remember, when you're using something to blow air, you want it to be on the coolest setting that it can be on your device. So now I'm going to go ahead and take that brighter green and get sort of my highlights in here. Just almost like a coloring book. We're just going to color this in, and I am actually going to leave a couple edges of the yellow, but I don't really want any blue in the middle of the rock. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the green in. The ladybug is going to be going over most of it, so I don't need to worry about it too much, but you know, I want to make sure that it's actually covered. I hope you guys are enjoying doing some creative, different kinds of projects, because I do all kinds of different things. I don't ever want to be pigeonholed, I think. I want to be a surprise to people. I'm going to go ahead and take a bit of that Hauser green, mixing it with a bit of that brighter green. You see how I did that? That's actually going to lighten the Hauser up, because what I want to do is kind of work in that shadow underneath of the ladybug. Now the ladybug is going to cover over most of this, but there's going to be bits of it that stick out in different spots. So let's see. And then I'm going to take, wow, that actually looks more like a slug or something, doesn't it? But you know what? It gives me a base to work on. I don't want the antenna-y bits to show up yet. That will be towards the end. And this is just going to give me a start. And to put my next layer in and get that ladybug going, right out here on the tip, I think is where the water drop is going to be. So I need to dry that real quick. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and take a spot of that yellow again to start putting in the body. And the body is basically a circle or a gumdrop, actually. Okay, so the body is basically a gumdrop. A little bit flatter on the bottom and more domed on the top. And that's because there's going to be a split here going over for where the wing goes. Now, ladybugs have, they have sort of a collar behind their head. So I'm going to paint that in kind of a yellowy white. And then they have their actual head. And the eyeballs will go on that. And then they have their mouth that sort of sticks out a little bit. So basically, the shape of the ladybug is sort of a rectangle on the mouth, a small ovalish rectangular-y kind of shape with a squished circle with an even more squished circle on a gumdrop. How's that for a way to describe this, huh? There we go. And then, yep, gotta dry it again. So now what we want is a bit of the red mixed with a bit of that orange. I don't want it to be my brightest red yet. So I want it to be more orangey. So it's primary red and pumpkin orange. And that's going to come on and start filling in. I want to leave a little edge of that yellow. There's going to be some detail stuff going in with the liner brush in a minute. But to start off with, I think I can put some of this in with our fun Little tiny bright. Our cute little tiny bright. I may have to go back in and do my yellow detail that I was thinking about. There. You're going, oh yeah, that's kind of Ladybug-ish. So I am going to go ahead and use this little spotter, I think. And I want to take a line of white along the back and down. There's going to be black in there too, but I wanted to break this just a little bit with the white, and I'll take some of the color in on it. And then a bit of white up here, and that's going to start giving us some of those highlights. I want some of that yellow, because down here it's not really as much of a highlight as it is just defining the color. You notice I have not rinsed my brush yet. Again, that's letting me blend some of those colors together and lighten them up a little bit. I'm not too worried about making it pink. Except where it makes it pink. Okay, that's okay though, because this is color underneath. This is still sort of the underpainting. So, you know, it's little details. Little details. Let's see. So this part actually becomes much more white, but I didn't want it to be bright white to begin with. And that's kind of that collar around his head, or her head, its head, their head, whatever way. And then we're going to get some more white over here on this part of the head and out here on the mouth parts. There's going to be some detailing going on here, and I actually want to work that out just a bit so it's got the bumps for the eyes. I'm going to take just a smidge of black and just start putting in some of the black in different spots. So there's this little triangle behind that collary bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit more of that black, because I want to put this eye in. And I'm going to rotate this so that I can put the other eye in. I don't work really well upside down backwards with my brush. I have to move it so that it's more available to my hand. Sorry, I just went quiet, didn't I? And I did not finish my statement. The eyes, they're bug eyes. I mean, it's not a human eye, so you don't end up with always having that highlight that you would expect on a human. And these are not eyelashes, they're just texture on the head. And a little bit of shadow. There we go. I need to dull down that whitish color in the eye. Okay, so we're moving it along. It's still not finishing up on that part. I'm going to put the undercolor on his leg and the other leg, and then another leg back here, just a bit of it. And then I am going to put a little bit more this yellow in on top of that. I'm going to let it blend. So there's a bit of a highlight on the top of the leg, and then it comes down. All right. You know, this is a fun little painting. It's not a total realistic painting, but it's a fun painting, and that's what we're here for, right? We do the rocks because we want to make something fun and give it away. So I want a bit more of that yellow again, kind of brighten this up in a couple spots. Remember, we can layer. And then I'm going to take a bit of black and put some of that right along that edge. Put a little bit of the black under here for his little feet. And I am not being anatomically correct on those little feet. They're just cute. Cute little feet. Now he has, or she has, or they have some spots on this collar that are kind of like a teardrop. Too much water in my paint. There we go. Bit of a teardrop and a teardrop. And then a spot and a spot. Maybe some other spots. I think that he needs a little bit of toning down on his head here. I don't want to lose all that detail, but I also don't want it to be quite so bright. And then I'm just going to kind of give him a cloud of white. Oh, that's looking much better. That's looking better. Sometimes you have to just do things until it feels right. So actually, a little bit of yellow on his knees. His legs are pretty much done. Maybe a little touch of yellow in his mouth. A little bit on the back of the head. All right. That area where the triangle is there, that's just a little triangle of white. And it can be on top of that gray color that was there. And just like that. Now we're going to take more of that red with just a touch of the orange in it. And I am really going to do more of a striping down, not a stripe, but a brush in of color here, and more of that color actually on the back side of the body, the away side, just like that. And the detailing right down here is going to be done with the liner brush, I think. So now get that out of the way. The nice thing about craft paint is that it is soft body. So it's really easy to do these liner type details. Something that you want to be careful of though, I don't know if you can see it. See, there's that water drop that's sitting right there. I'm going to just touch it to my paper. See how it got all wet right there? Just touch it to the paper towel. All right. We're going to clean up that edge right there and clean up this edge and that edge. See, the liner brush makes it really nice to clean up those outlines. And then this one is going to go right up along that black to minimize it just a bit more. Then I want to grab some of that yellow and orange. And we're going to go right here. It's a highlight. And work it down just ever so slightly in that wet paint. Look at that. How nicely that just works right into a highlight. It blends. Very basic blending, not, you know, we're not blending skin tones, which is a little bit more challenging. That's a little bit too dark or too bright. So I'm just going to pick up some of the red, whoops, and get rid of the water drops. Pick up a little bit of that red, and I'm going to blend some of the red right into that. Diffuse it. There we go. Now I'm going to take a bit of white and give us a little bit of some highlights up there. Ooh, I've got a puddle of water right here on the rock. There. Then I'm going to take some more of that red right along here and then feather it out just ever so slightly. Feather. Maybe a touch of the black into the red to give us a bit of a shadow back here behind his collar. And a bit of the shadow right there behind his head. And right here. And then ever so slightly right across that area there. Maybe bring some of that grayer tone up. And into the head area. Oh, wow. Now, we're going to put some black spots on him. I'm just going to use that liner brush again and the straight lamp black. And this one does not have the super duper defined dots. They're a little bit edged, a little bit more edgy. So we're not going to have perfect polka dots. They have a little bit of character to them. So I can just let the brush tip wiggle and make its little dots. Let's see, there's another one here. And then a tiny one right up there. That's what I'm doing it from. I'll show it to you side by side. I'll set this rock on top of there soon as we have it all done. And then you kind of want to match up your dots from side to side. They don't have to be perfect, and you're not going to be seeing most of them anyway. Just a hint. There we go. There's that one, and a little bit down there. All right, so there's Ladybug. Ladybug needs a tiny bit more white with a smidge, just the smidgiest smidge of yellow in it. We're going to get a bit of a diffused, almost gem-like highlight right here. And then there's a couple spots just where the sun's sort of dancing around him. Now we're going to get that water drop on there, and because the water drop is on a green, lovely green leaf, I'm going to take my Hauser green, that darker green, whoops, and run my my paper through the black. So we've got half the circle. Actually, we're going to do a whole circle, just outline. Half of it is going to get painted in with the dark green. And half of it is getting a water drop. Half of it is going to be white with the tiniest touch of that apple green in there. Like that. And then they kind of blend together like this. And then we take the edge of it. Okay, we're getting a water drop. We're just going to keep blending it. Because remember, the water drop, the brightest light is going to be over here in the darkest area. So I'm going to take and put my bright white there and a tiny line of white down here, and then sort of smudge out just a slight reflection glow outside. And look at that. You have a ladybug with a water drop. Now I want to lift the edge of this up a little bit and just barely darken underneath of her. So I'm going to take that Hauser green and the light green and a touch of black, and I am just going to barely put a little bit of a shadow closer in, tighter underneath, just like this. Whoops, I need to move it over just a smidge, sorry. And then I want to sort of smudge that just a bit on the edges so it's more diffused. And I think I need something that's got a little more body to it. I'm going to take that bigger brush and carefully smudge in just a little bit of a shadow underneath. Just like that. And then, because I don't want it to be quite so obvious right there, I'm going to wipe that back just a little bit. See how I did that? Might even take a little bit of the brighter green and sort of work that in out here. Oh, that's nice. Now, I do want to clean up that little bit of an edge right here where my shadow kind of jumped up over. Oh yes, and he does need some little antennas. And the little antenna is going to be sort of a orange, yellowy, gray, brown. So sort of a mud color. His little antenna comes out like that and out like this. And then there's going to be the tiniest little touch of white along the antenna, just so that you can see it. Maybe a little bit of white on top of his head. It's that white and cream. I like that better. There we go. And then a bright white spot. I keep forgetting to wipe off that water. Brighter white spots, just a couple. Boom, boom, boom. Tap, tap, tap. Maybe one more little line, a softer line. Oh yeah, look. How'd I do? The watercolor, the acrylic painting. The watercolor I didn't put the water drop on because I didn't think about it, but I really wanted that water drop. I think that it just sets that off and gives it a really nice reason to be. I am looking at this going, I think the under edge of this needs a little bit of a shadow. So I'm just taking the straight Hauser green and just ever so, like, hardly touching it with even a bit of a hair. Little tiny, tiny touch. And I'm skipping and letting it hit and then not hit. And maybe even right along that edge there. There we go. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. Make sure, if you do a rock, share it with somebody out in your community. Look online on Facebook for your city's name and rocks. I betcha you're going to find someplace that's nearby, or maybe even in your town. I happen to participate with Vancouver Rocks in Vancouver, Washington, because I think they're pretty darn cool, and it's my hometown. Go out, do something creative, take care of yourself so you can take care of those around you, and I hope to see you back here again really soon. Bye-bye.